Welcome to Winning Inside, the show where we follow the journey from feeling defeated to winning. Here are your hosts, Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman.
Hello, amazing people. Welcome to the Winning Inside podcast, where we discuss real issues, insights, and solutions to help you thrive in your day-to-day lives. We know life happens, and we can choose to be a spectator or participant.
These conversations and stories are about the participants, the ones who made the choice to do the inner work and found a way to keep moving forward. Hey, Cheddy.
Michelle, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am ab and fab. I feel really good today.
Good.
Just a beautiful day outside. It was cloudy. Now it's sunny. It's pretty. I love it.
I've been inside since it's been clouded, so I just had to look through the cracks of my blinds, and I was like, "Oh my god, it is blue sky!" Get outside.
Nice. I know. I want to go riding today, so I'm gonna jump on a motorcycle and ride around for a little bit because that's just good therapy. Two-wheel therapy, we'll call it.
Yes, get outside, be in nature, go somewhere different, and that brings us to our topic today.
What?
I know. Travel.
Say it one more time.
Oh, man.
We both got excited when we said the word travel.
So excited. I mean, here's the deal. Travel is exciting.
It is an adventure. I mean, there's no better way to say it. It's seeing things and doing things you haven't done before. It is a beautiful way to make memories that just last a long time. And those are experiences you can treasure for the rest of your days. I mean, we all have experiences of going somewhere new and you're like, wow, that was really cool. And it can be better than you expected. It can be worse. But no matter what it is, you have a story and an experience from that event. So let's talk about it. Let's get into it.
Let's talk about it. I think about so many memories from travel that I've experienced over the years. And I still look back on many of these memories very fondly. And it doesn't mean that every moment of that, trip or experience was fantastic. Oftentimes it's not.
Mm-hmm.
There are definitely hiccups that take place. You definitely experience stress. I mean, especially if you're in a country where you don't speak the language, you can't even read the language. And it's very difficult to translate. So I traveled to Japan a few years ago, right before the pandemic hit, and you're in the subway and you need to move fast and people are moving fast around. And you're like, I don't even know how much to pay.
Well, I've been there before.
So there's stress. Yeah, I know you've definitely been to Japan. There's stress involved, but it's still, you look back on it and you're like, wow, what an experience,
Oh, yes.
And even when you do these things that are different and you're uncomfortable in the moment, you're kind of proud of yourself a little bit. You're like, internal high five. I actually made it to my destination today. You didn't give up. There's so many things, so many lessons from travel, so many gifts from travel that we encourage everybody to travel, but also look at it from a different perspective. You don't have to go across the ocean and halfway across the world to experience something new. Doing something as small as going to the next town over or driving 45 minutes away to a brand new coffee shop or a new little cafe or even a garden or even a park that you've never been to before, and looking at it from the perspective of, this is brand new to me, right? So even that level of travel creates memories and gifts that last a long time that you can come back to during times when you feel stagnant or low or are wishing that there was something new coming into your life.
I can only agree with what you said, Michelle. And the reason being, one of the things you said, it's almost like taking a break. You talked about that break. We talked about burnout a few episodes ago. And what a better way to kind of get a break or a reset than going on a trip or traveling somewhere. And Michelle, you hit the nail on the head. You don't have to travel halfway around the world. A trip, a travel can be going to something new, something different, a different part of town, something that's easy to do in your space, but puts you in a new environment around new people doing new things. Because that experience alone, just learning something new is exciting. Meeting new people can be exciting. Learning a new place can be exciting. And then you get to do all of that and have new experiences. And those are things people cannot take away from you. Gosh, I love it. I love it. Oh my
Well,
gosh.
first of all, I have to take it back. We have to give our listeners a little insight too. When we first jumped on this call before we started recording, Cheddy and I are both like, I'm tired. I mean, legit.
Yes.
Like, there's no way we can talk about the subject that we had just identified last week that we were going to discuss, which we'll use in the future. And I will not share right now. But there's no way we can share this subject right now because we're not connected to it, right? And if you're not connected to the subject matter, it's going to come off as like not interesting or exciting at all. And as soon as we came up with this subject of travel, both of us just lit up.
Yes.
And now we're awake. We're excited. That is the magic of travel. Whatever you're hearing from us right now is literally because of the just talking about travel is creating this energy versus how we were talking for the first, I'm not kidding you, hour
and 10 minutes to be exact, but who's
so
counting?
Tired. We're like, I'm tired. Are you tired? Yes, I'm tired. Okay. So that is the beauty and power of travel, that it can generate excitement, right?
Yes.
For us just talking about it. One, revisiting the memories of travel from the past. Two, talking about the possibilities of travel in the future. Have you ever planned a trip that you were so looking forward to that it literally pulled you into the future, right? Every time you thought about it, it might have been 6 months in the future and you were just like, oh my God, I can't wait to go, right? Another month goes by and you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I am going to execute all these goals because I am super excited to get on this trip. I want to make sure I have all my work wrapped up so that I can be fully present, all of that stuff, right? It just pulls you energetically into the future. And so that is another opportunity with travel, that it can either pull you forward or when you look backwards, it creates energy.
Yes.
It's so awesome.
Yes. It's a breath of fresh air, literally and figuratively. I mean, it really can be a breath of fresh air, but it also helps you to kind of get a respite from your day to day. And you can look, like you said, Michelle, you look forward to it and you also can just remember it and revel in it as it goes. But what are some of the things that can happen on travel that make it so exciting? You mentioned language as being one of them. There's a section of you that is so new to an area, even if it's not the first time you've been there. There's a certain level of curiosity that comes with it. Even if you've been to a place, you're like, oh, I tried this restaurant, I want to go find it again. I met these great people. Hopefully I can meet them again. I had this experience, or I saw this thing, and you can anticipate doing it again. And if it's the first time, it's like, I've never done any of this stuff. Let's go explore. That exploration, that creativity, that curiosity is such a life-giving energy, because now you're seeking to learn new things and to become more of who you are. I mean, I can't find anything bad about travel other than it's so hard to do sometimes. I don't like flying. Not that I'm afraid. I don't like the process of flying. I wish I could get on a plane and just go.
Oh my God, same.
But I've learned to sleep on an airplane, so I recoup that time. And I would do some work, but I've learned to use that time in a constructive way for me, either to combat jet lag. So when I get to where I'm going, I can start the show immediately, or I'll use that time to prep for where I'm going. If I need to do any prep or find a place to, whatever it is, whatever the logistics that I need to do may be, I like to do that on the airplane. That way I'm using that time constructively. But enjoy it. Enjoy all of it. Enjoy the whole process. And I know going through customs isn't fun, but I people watch. And I'll tell you what, customs, you see everybody. So I love the people watching. There's people everywhere. People. You know, I love my people. So I enjoy that part of it. I don't like the process and the bureaucracy, but it's exciting to me. It's exciting. And
I agree.
You got to turn those lemons into lemonade. I mean, things will happen on the trip that you don't expect. Make the best of it.
Yes.
I've been to places and people are like, oh, don't go there. It's going to be terrible. And I'll tell you, I've been to those places and be like, it was great. I had a great time because I got to choose to have a good time. And I refused to not have a good time. I had the intent and the intention of having a good time. Therefore, I did. And I'm always going to do that because part of the reason I paid to go, I took the time to go, I had the intention of going. If I'm going to do all of those things, I need to make sure I enjoy and make it the most that I can.
Yeah. Well, everybody's going to have an opinion, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
if they've been to the town or city or country that you've been to, they're like, "Oh, you got to do this. It was amazing." And then you go and you do it, you're like, "It actually wasn't that great," right? Or you go somewhere to your point and they're like, "Don't go there. It was terrible." And you go and you're like, "Oh my
This is
God, this is
great.
amazing."
Yeah.
So everybody's going to have their own opinion because they're also experiencing these things through whatever filter that they've had at that moment,
Yeah.
right? And even if they know you incredibly well, that experience is so uniquely theirs. And
Mm-hmm.
your experience when you go into any, new space, and it doesn't even have to be around travel, but since we're going to stay on topic, as I'm going to try to focus. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um, you go into these new places with your own filters,
Yeah.
right? Attempting to experience it only through the filter of allowing it to be whatever it is, allowing this experience to create itself, and you just being an observer of it is what's going to give you the most lessons from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know you can take that and you can apply it to work and many other places, but we're going to, again, focus on travel.
Yes. Today is all about travel.
Today's all about travel. But those are the lessons that we can gain from it. When Cheddy was touching on when you go to these new places and that word exploration, we are human beings from the beginning of time. Exploration, since we left the cave, exploration has been in our souls. It has been part of who we are. It is what has created the earth to look the way it has. For humans to be everywhere they are is because we explored, right? We left the cave and we created risk in our lives and we explored. And exploration is something that actually stimulates that creativity, the openness to learning. It helps us to absorb everything that's around us. Yeah. So, and really what it does is it helps you learn about yourself. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. That I mentioned earlier, like you're proud of yourself when you achieve something, when you've traveled and you're somewhere new and you got to the destination that you're like, I had no idea how I even ended up here, right? Or you ask help from strangers, which how often do we ask help from people we know, let alone strangers? But when you're so exposed and vulnerable, when you're traveling, you don't speak the language, you don't read the language, like you have to ask many people for help in a very awkward way, right?
Yes.
and you almost look back at those times and you just laugh at yourself and you're like, thank God I'm alive. Sometimes like I could have walked off a cliff for all I know. You're just so lost. There is beauty in getting lost. Okay. In life, we oftentimes always want to have a path laid out for us, but there is beauty in getting lost, and travel teaches us that over and over and over again. So it is important that we sometimes don't use a map, right? And sometimes we just get open to the directions that are provided us by strangers.
Yes.
So yes, this is a little bit of a, choose your own adventure in terms of what message I'm sharing with you and how you want to apply it in your life. Travel teaches us vulnerability, how to be open to new opportunities, right? And what we're capable of when we're open to receiving help from other people, when we're open to experiencing things as they are. Those are all beautiful lessons from travel.
I'd love to expand on that. I mean, it's something you said, Michelle, that, well, you always say stuff that's like golden, but let's look at it. You can actually reduce biases, open up your aperture to more experiences, and just have a deeper understanding of things. When you see things for yourself, you can now challenge things that you've heard. So if you have a stereotype or a certain belief about a thing or an event or anything like that, sometimes seeing it in person with your own eyes and your own assessment, you could either prolong and perpetuate that belief, or you can realize, that wasn't exactly correct because from my experience, I saw this or this. And you get to have a deeper and better understanding of a culture, of a situation, of a system, of a thing, whatever that thing may be. You just get to see it from a different perspective. And sometimes that firsthand knowledge enables you to have now an authoritative, for lack of a better term, way of determining or deciding what a thing is in your life, whether you like it, dislike it, understand it, or whatever. And I used to tell people when it came to travel, depending on where you're going, don't always compare it to where you came from, because sometimes you can lose some of the beauty of what a place is. Sometimes acknowledging that it's different and they do things differently for different reasons can prevent you from having frustration. Like, oh, they don't do this the way I expect them to do it. Well, because it's not home. They don't eat this. They don't talk this way. They don't say this thing. They do this all the time. Whatever it is, that's great. But if you compare it, sometimes you can lose out and think they're lacking. Sometimes if you just look at it from a different perspective, one where they do this in a different way, and then try to figure out why that is. Maybe it's a better way. Maybe it's just a different way. Maybe it's based on some other reasons, some other factors that we don't know about. Who knows? But now you have just a deeper appreciation, a deeper understanding. It will give you more compassion with dealing with people who are different, and you can understand some of the differences. It can help you to understand why certain people have certain gestures, because gestures aren't always universal. It just gives you a deeper and greater understanding of those around you. It's pretty cool. And it's pretty fun. And the craziest thing for me, Michelle, is traveling halfway across the world and meeting somebody that I met in another country halfway across the world. That's happened more than once, which is so crazy. I'm like, I know you. I know you from North Carolina. Why am I meeting you here in this other country? How random is that? And it's funny because the first time I met the person, I didn't really know them that well. The second time I met them, I didn't know them well either, but we end up hanging out for a little while because like, that's pretty cool, you know? And I don't know, there's just so many opportunities. I mean, I have stories, Michelle, you have stories. We could talk about travel all day because it's so much fun. It's I love people, and you just get to meet so many people when you travel. Oh, So let me just stop talking because I can ramble on about travel all day.
I know. Honestly, I truly could too. And we could talk, the stories from the different trips that we've had. My first trip, I think it was my very first trip, was to Hawaii. Oh. My parents took my sister and myself to Hawaii, and they wanted to make it really special. And it was. I mean, my parents had been going to Hawaii just themselves. And so they finally took my sister and me with them. And we're like, thanks. But we didn't take a lot of family vacations growing up. My parents worked really hard.
Yeah.
And so when they finally, we all four went together, they took us to Hawaii, and my dad hired a limo to pick us up. And so it was my first time in a limo.
Yeah.
I think it was 8 at the time, about 8 or 9. And then we flew first class to, I want to say it was Oahu first.
Oh, wow.
And it was just this really awe-inspiring experience. And you would almost think I'd be tainted and be like, I can never fly coach again. But no, it wasn't that at all. It was just so incredibly awe-inspiring that the whole trip was almost, certainly colored in an amazing way from the moment we left till the moment we came back. And it still just sits with me. It's such a clear memory. And Cheddy, I know I've told you many times, I have very few memories from my childhood, very few.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for me to connect with those times. But the travel times, I've stayed.
Yes.
That is the power of travel, that I can look back and very clearly remember specific moments, specific emotions, even from my childhood that I had when we were traveling. The first time my sister and I flew alone on a plane, we were still quite young. And but that was back in the day when I think it happened probably more often. And, they allowed you to walk them to the gate and everything like that. All of those things really still resonate very deeply with me. And I can look back and remember and almost relearn some lessons from that time and rediscover that some of the ways that I am now, I was always that way.
Yeah.
I remember going to see the Vietnam War Memorial. I mean, this was 8th grade, so, preteen years. And I remember just crying. Wow. So profoundly moved by my experience there and what they created and what it stood for. And that, of course, being who I was also as a child, I tried to hide that.
Yeah.
So, because that was too embarrassing, right, and shameful to being so moved and by something as simple, quote unquote, simple, right?
Yeah.
As a memorial that I didn't really understand. But now looking back, and I mean, for many years looking back, I was like, wow, I was always really empathetic, right? Yeah. I always really felt emotions very deeply. And I, back then I was ashamed of it. And now I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
Right. I love the memories of travel from my childhood, and I treasure them so deeply for all that they still provide me to this day. All these new lessons and discoveries I have from the same memories. So I know we're winding down from summer, and for anybody who's listening, whether you have a family, a child, or even if it's just for yourself, that we encourage you to find a moment to create the experience of travel, even if it's only, 15, 30 minutes away from your front door. There are new places for you to discover.
Yes. I love that. And, you talk about experience over things. It took me almost this long in my life to realize that things are nice, but experiences are great. And those are actually forever. You can, you will have those memories and those experiences when the metal rusts and the stuff fades and everything else is worn out, you still have those golden memories. I actually, in this phase of life, prefer memories and experience over things. But I got a question for you, Michelle. You ready for this? Because I got a question for you. If you had to choose between 3 different vacations, one that was like a working vacation or a working trip, one that was a resting trip where you just get to relax and just do absolutely nothing, or one that was a touristy trip, what would your preference be?
Your expression right now, I wish people could see it. You covered your mouth and leaned back. He covered his mouth and leaned back with this expression on his face because I'm like, I want it all. I want it all. My first instinct, I'm going to be honest, was to say a working trip because I was like, then I can write it off. And just being real. Okay. Honestly,
yeah,
there is an element of all of that in each trip. Mm-hmm. And because what we do, as coaches, right? Yeah. We always see these opportunities. Oh yeah, I could totally talk to this person. I can totally help this organization. I can totally, see myself coming back out here and doing a retreat in Hawaii. Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Or Costa Rica, whatever.
Costa Rica, both. Or both.
So I can always see the element of opportunity of work. I can always find that respite, the moments to myself, and they're just moments. It could be literally a couple minutes. I went on a trip with my family to Maui. I guess it was last year. Oh my, was it just last year? I can't believe it.
Wow.
So, and I remember just sitting on the beach, taking time and going to the beach just by myself and meditating. And might have only been 5 minutes of breath work and meditation on the beach, but it creates so much space within me and within my brain that's really all I need are those moments of respite, right?
Yeah. And
then the touristy bit, yes. Everywhere I go, if it's a work trip, if it's a, relaxed trip, whatever it is, I am going to be a tourist. I want to see the new things. Be a tourist in your hometown. I advocate for that all the time. Look at your town through the eyes of somebody who's there for the first time, and you will discover beauty that you have never seen before. Cheddy, you talk to me about this all the time. You fall in love with San Diego every single day. And why is that?
There's so much to see here. It's like every day feels like day one of just so many new experiences, new people. I just love the beauty that I see around me and the hidden gems, the things that are off the beaten path, the things that are on the beaten path. I love all of that. So yeah, I get up and I'm like, this is so cool. What is it going to be today? Where am I going to get lost today? All the time. But where am I going to get lost? But is it really lost? It's serendipitous. It's a fortunate accident. You get lost and you find a new restaurant. You get lost, you find a new park. You get lost and you see this view that is insane. Like, oh my goodness, I would have never known this if I didn't take this wrong turn and get off the highway on the wrong exit. But I love it. I actually realized from doing that I like the mountains more than the beach. Who would have thought that? I didn't. But yeah, I love the mountains more than the beach. And it's just so tranquil. It's so cool. It's so relaxing that, you got so many interesting people. I love the interaction. So yeah, I absolutely love it. And I'm like you. I like to do all three on a trip. I like to break it down, and I'll go home. I'll go to like London and still be a tourist in London. Even though it's home, I will still do that. I'll go to New York and do the same thing. Well, let's go on a trip now. Let's go learn something else. Because you realize even though you lived there are things you didn't do when you were there. And it's changed. And there's so much more that you can do because now you're just aware of so much more that's out there. So yeah, I'm all about it. I am going to be a big time advocate for travel. And if it enables you to take a micro trip, if it enables you to kind of take a breather and reset and go into this next season, by all means, find a way to do it. Find a way to do it. And don't make it seem like it's going to be some huge, massive undertaking. Sometimes it could be taking the long way home and stopping on the way home to go get a coffee in some new place. That's how I used to find tea shops. I found some tea shops across America in the most random places. And the tea was good and the cookies were good and, it was all gravy. But then I had a new spot and I could actually be a concierge for other people. Hey, if you're ever in such and such town, go check this thing out. I do it all the time. So yeah, love it, and love it. But I feel like I should give you another question on the fly, but I won't do it to you.
If you could travel, and this is the other beauty of travel, is just dreaming about it, right? Like imagining yourself somewhere else, imagining yourself at this location or, in a sort of environment that it can do incredible things, honestly, for your stress level.
Oops. Thanks. My eyes were closed. I forgot that I was recording a podcast. I had my eyes closed. Like, wait, I'm not doing something.
You're daydreaming
right
already.
I did.
Yeah.
So eyes are open again. I'm back.
So if you could travel anywhere in the world and just transport yourself there right now, where would you go?
I'd be in Indonesia. I'd be in Bali right now. I'd be in Bali. It is the most tranquil place that I've been. And I would love to go back and revisit that peace, that beautiful peace of just no hustle and bustle and just niceness. And not by the touristy areas either. I'm talking about in the cut, somewhere where there's hardly any people, where the food is great, the yoga's good, the air is clean, and life just feels like my heart rate just dropped. My stress level is low. So yeah, for me, it'll be Bali.
All right. I love that. So we want to know where you guys want to go.
Oh, tell us.
Where would you imagine yourself if you could just transport yourself there? Whether it's just you or your family, no judgment.
Hey, and if you're going and you want to take an extra person, I'll be your plus one. I'm just putting that out there right now.
Absolutely. Hey. Where would you go? I love it. Well, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, follow, share, and most importantly, use whatever adds value to your amazing life.
Remember, even if life puts barriers in our way, we are still moving forward. Sign in each week for a new episode of Winning Inside.
Thank you for listening to Winning Inside with Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman. If you enjoyed today's show, please make sure to click the follow button, rate and review at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can connect with Cheddy and Michelle at winninginside.io. Keep listening. Another episode is coming soon.